I do want to start. And can you all hear me out there? Can you all hear me now? I do want to start by saying good afternoon to each and every one of you. I'm going to try that again. Good afternoon to each and every one of you. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, there are certain rituals that I have to go through before I begin any presentation, because when I don't, negative things sometimes happen. I don't want that to happen today, so I'm going to ask you to bear with me a bit. I feel power in this place.
Yeah.
And so as a younger person, I cannot stand in this holy place and not ask the elders who are in here if I have their permission to speak to them in this place.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask
yes, sir.
an elder if I have your permission to speak in this holy space today.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. I thank you for that. And so, because you gave me permission, you're now responsible for me. If I say something out of whack or something that's incorrect, you got to pull my coattail on it.
I'll pull you down.
All right, sir. I've always given honor and respect to God the Father and Mother, to the holy ancestors, and to all those individuals who have worked so very, very hard and sacrificed so much, including their lives, to make sure that the world they leave behind is better than the one that they inherited. Those individuals are also not only my admiration, but promise of emulation, because it's not enough just to know what good people have done if you're not willing to apply it to your own life and make you better.
Wow. Wow.
Always in their absence, I give honor and respect to my mother and father.
All right.
Pledge my undying love and devotion to my two daughters, Ayoma Remba and my son, Eziani. My beautiful wife, Dr. Patrice Williams. I also have to thank Bishop Mays, Overseer Johnson, the leaders of this church, the elders who are present. And finally, I want to thank Ms. Maureen Simmons and the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Committee for the invitation to speak here today. Now that I've done that, I feel it's okay to move forward.
Yes, sir.
I'm here to speak to the theme of, as a beloved community, where do we go from here?
Yeah, all right.
And I wish to approach that through the lens of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself. In the time allotted, I want to talk about the true legacy of Dr. King in his own words, and what it really means to struggle for justice and to be a part of the beloved community.
Right.
As such, I've titled this presentation, As a Beloved Community, Where Do We Go From Here? Upholding the legacy and light of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
I have a lot to get to, and in the words of famed historian John Henry Clark, a short time was to do.
Yeah.
Dr. King said, quote, "Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in our lives."
Right.
He was talking about a holistic change.
Yes.
Dr. King was known for his eloquent use of language. This is important because language is one of the most powerful means of expression on the planet. It has been used to start wars and to end them. It has set people free and imprisoned them for life. Language has been used to justify injustice and to defend the indefensible. It has been used to justify the lynching and murder of our people. And it has been used by us to resist injustice and to call to task the tyranny that this country has operated on from its founding.
Wow.
I was told this is a place where you can tell the truth.
Tell it.
I hope so, because I tell it everywhere I go regardless. Today, however, I want to look at language as a medium of protest and resistance, and that forms the basis of my overall discussion, as well as Dr. King's position on where we go from here and what we should be doing when we do the necessary work against injustice that he passed on to us each day. 5 of the most powerful words in the English language when accepted and applied, and the most divisive and dangerous who rejected or ignored are the words peace, understanding, rights, citizenship, and dialogue.
Wow.
The civil rights struggles of the 1950s and 1960s were, for Dr. King, predicated on achieving all five as well as others, and when resistance to their implementation occurred, violence and revolts resulted in America. It was but a tightrope fashion between the practice of nonviolent resistance and the ever-increasing call for all-out activism and response that Dr. King balanced upon during these 2 decades. Also during this period in which King worked the hardest to achieve an understanding of the conditions and the need to change between the oppressor and the oppressed, between the economically advantaged and the dismally impoverished, between men and women, between race and race, and the need to protect, project, and defend the humanity of us as a people. No small order for the Prince of Peace. Yet in order to uphold the legacy of King, to truly understand it and to apply it to our everyday lives, we must understand what it really means to be devoted to the movement for equality, to the establishment and maintenance of the beloved community, and the sacrifices that being a responsible member of that community requires. It was Representative John Lewis who warned us, quote, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime."
Wow.
Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble, end quote. It's imperative that we truly understand who we're talking about when we say Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
He is much more than that "I have a dream" bumper sticker we have allowed this country to reduce him to. Well, it was in that same speech that King warned the country that, quote, "It would be a failure for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This spoke in some of the Negroes' legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality." 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off some steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America till the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. End quote. That was our King. We're going to have to reclaim him. We saw what he was talking about in 1963 play out again in 2020, resulting from the murder of Mr. George Floyd. Well as the death of Ms. Breonna Taylor, Mr. Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others. That for King in 1963, that what I just read was the predictive language of him. But when we speak of Martin Luther King Jr., in actuality, we're talking about a life and legacy of service to mankind. When we talk about Martin Luther King Jr., in reality, we're talking about the ability to boldly diagnose the problems that surround you and then have the fortitude and courage to dedicate your life to establishing and developing solutions. Can't just identify it.
That's right.
Gotta solve it.
Right.
You cannot let fear overtake you when defending the beloved community. Fear has no place in this type of devotion.
Right.
When we talk about Martin Luther King Jr., we really talk about him. In reality, we're talking about extreme dedication for and love of humanity itself. Upholding that type of legacy, emulating that kind of commitment and dedication to the struggle against injustice is both simple and complex simultaneously.
Wow.
Oh, we got a lot to do if we really want to.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, building a beloved community, as King so aptly demonstrated, involves overcoming self-preservation, be it physical, financial, or political, and fully embracing a complete love and dedication for the well-being of humanity and the community that surrounds us. We cannot be scared. When we talk about the beloved community, as King spent his life committed to, we're talking about developing a complete dedication to the power of inclusiveness and the control and development of our own communities. Upholding the beloved community means that we become extensions of King himself, not just this day, but the entire year, and that we grab hold of his ideas and that we understand the significance and necessity of accurately diagnosing the problems that bind us as a people, the problems that oppress us as a people, the problems that murder us as a people, and strip us of our rights. Nobody pulled my coattail yet, so I'm gonna keep rolling. We cannot allow the society to tell our children who King was, what he believed, or what he stood for. That is our moral responsibility.
Right.
It was King who said, "I have, quote, the audacity to believed that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirit.
Wow.
Above all else, we must understand that King was a man of action.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes our actions require that we look back and discover some of those long lost values that we forgot. And that the elders in this church know and stay up to iron firm. February 28, 1954, King delivered a speech in Detroit, Michigan, entitled Rediscovering Lost Value.
Right.
Where he spoke to the problems we face then and to a degree still face today. King noted, quote, "The great problem facing modern man is that the means by which we live have outdistanced the spiritual ends for which we live." So we find ourselves caught up in a messed up world. If we are to go forward today, we've got to go back and rediscover some mighty precious values that we've left behind. The thing that we need in the world today, he continued, is a group of men and women who will stand up for right and to be opposed to wrong, whatever it is. That was King in 1954, our King. And it's more imperative than ever that we, in 2023, take on those characteristics.
Right.
But we are responsible for accomplishing this. We are responsible for defending us. We are responsible for the beloved community. Because as King noted, when it comes to defending us as a people, quote, nobody else can do this for us.
Right.
No document can do this for us. No Draconian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Tennessonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign the pen and the ink himself and assert advantage his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't ever let anybody take your man.
Yeah.
King also spoke on the role of religion in addressing the total problems of man. While studying at Crozer Theological Seminary, he came to realize, quote, that any religion that professes concern for the souls of men and not equally concerned about the slums that damn them, the economic conditions that strangle them, and the social conditions that cripple them, is a spiritually moral religion only waiting for the day to be buried. King understood that to effect change in the church, the harbingers of the beloved community, the one sin was supposedly dedicated to the ideas of peace, understanding, right, citizenship, and dialogue, would have to come from behind the protected walls of his edifices and out into the streets where people rejoice, suffer, and die daily. There's work for us to do.
Yes.
King also spoke of retired people who were no longer willing to be trampled upon by what he called the iron feet of oppression. Thus, the only weapon, King acknowledged, that we have in this struggle, in our hands this evening, is the weapon of protest.
Wow.
This is true today. In the struggle for freedom and justice, King paid particular attention to the role Africa played in the independence struggle. He was a man of global views and intentions, and for which the beloved community was not only a local entity, but an international one.
Wow.
April 1957, in a speech titled The Birth of a New Nation, King spoke at length about Ghana's successful bid for independence in 1957. For years, the Gold Coast of Africa had been exploited, dominated, and trampled upon by European powers. Yet King noted, quote, Ghana has something to say to us. It says to us first that the oppressor never voluntarily gives freedom to the oppressed. You have to work for it. Freedom is never given to anybody. For the oppressor has you in domination because he plans to keep you there. And he never voluntarily gives it up. And that is where the strong resistance comes. Privileged classes never give up their privilege without strong resistance.
Right.
End quote. He impressed upon listeners that the events leading to Ghana's independence had a lot to teach. And that one of the most important lessons was, quote, freedom only comes through persistent revolt, through persistent agitation, through persistently rising up against the system of evil. The aftermath of nonviolence, he noted, is the creation of the beloved community.
Yeah.
For King, the struggle to end equality is based upon 3 little words, all, here, and now. He said, we want all of our rights, we want them here, and we want them now.
Yeah.
Yet King also clarified the idea of loving one's oppressor, and argued that, quote, it is nonsense to urge people, oppressed people, to love their oppressors in an affectionate sense. I'm talking about a sort of understanding, creative, redemptive goodwill for all men, end quote. That we're going to have to be able to tell our children what King was really talking about.
Right.
Yet when attacked, King used the power of language to convert and to promote support and understanding of the beloved community. However, he warned that we should never expect positive change to happen unaided. Y'all still with me?
Yes, sir.
Quote, he says, human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts of men willing to be co-workers with God.
Yeah.
And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. We must use time creatively in the knowledge that time is always right to do right. Now is the time to make real the promise of democracy and transform our pending national elegy into a creative strong brotherhood. Now is the time to lift our national policy from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of human dignity.
Yeah, yeah.
It was King who in 1967 said, quote, let us be dissatisfied until the tragic walls that separate the outer city of wealth and comfort and the inner city of poverty and despair shall be crushed by the battering rams and forces of justice.
Wow.
Let us be dissatisfied until those that live on the outskirts of hope are brought into the metropolis of daily security. Let us be dissatisfied until the slums are cast into the junk heaps of history and every family is living in a decent sanitary home.
Right.
The consequences of abject poverty that we see today are problems that exist in terrifying reality. Let us be dissatisfied with all of this mess and let us do something about it. Quote, let us rise up tonight with a greater readiness, King announced the day before his murder. Let us stand with a greater determination and let us move on in these powerful days, these days of challenge to make America what it ought to be. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation.
Right.
That is the beloved community. And that continues to be our task of where we go from here as long as we are here.
Yeah.
Yet despite his dedication to nonviolent protest and peaceful coexistence, on April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated by standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. Famed singer Nina Simone in her tribute ballad to King asked, quote, what will happen now that the King of Love is dead? For King, the answer was simple. You continue to fight along the path of peaceful noncompliance and continue to confront this country and demand, in King's words, that America, quote, be true to what you said on paper. So as I conclude this afternoon, in order to truly honor King's true legacy, to build upon the concept of the beloved community, in order to really answer the question of where do we go from here, we must first begin to live King's legacy daily. We must implement his strategies daily. We must practice his teachings daily.
Yeah.
We must let his life and commitment to our people and humanity be our guide.
Yeah.
And when we do that, ladies and gentlemen, we will know where we're supposed to go after this and know what we're supposed to do when we get there.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Quote, be concerned about your brother. King warned before the assassination. Either we go up together or we go down together. Let us develop a kind of dangerous unselfishness. When we do that, ladies and gentlemen, I say, then we will truly understand what King meant by the beloved community and our responsibilities for maintaining it. More importantly, we will all understand the responsibilities, the sacrifices, the commitment, and dedication that come with the work of making this world a better one for this generation and for the children and generations that will come long after we close our eyes for the final time.
All right. Yes, sir.
Don't ever let him take your man and hunger and priest. And for this celebration, that is what I wish to leave you with on his behalf. Because when you have your man and womanhood intact, you will bow to no one. And the light and power that you will walk with will inspire all who meet. You will also serve as a warning for those who would do you harm to get back out of your way.
Yeah.
But Dr. King showed us that as well. Thank you so much for the time, for the attention, and for the power that you walk in. Peace, life.